Okay, so today I'm gonna tell the story time of the guy that caused me to delete Hinge. So all of this happened like beginning of September, so a little over 2 months ago. I officially deleted Hinge. I did re-download it like the weekend after or so when I got drunk, but I would like literally delete it like right after. And since then, like even when getting drunk, I don't even re-download it anymore. So it's been officially completely off my phone for 2 months. So super proud of myself for that. There's many reasons why I deleted Hinge, like beyond just this individual guy. Like I've been on the app for almost 2 years now, and I've met a ton of guys from it, especially this year. I feel like I've met the most people I ever have from dating apps since getting on it, and I was just super tired of it in general, not just because of this specific guy, but this guy was definitely like my last straw and like what caused me to be like, okay, I need to like cut the cord, delete it, try something new. Okay, so now getting to the story. So prior to this guy, I need to give some context. Like, as I said, I met a ton of guys from Hinge, just like in the past 2 years, but especially this year, like after I started getting back into dating around April, May, I met like a bunch of guys back to back, and I was like seeing a couple guys simultaneously. Obviously did not go my way, just wasn't going well. And some of those situations like really crushed me, like was not doing well. Like you can go to my other story times to hear a little bit more about that. And a lot of people were telling me already like maybe you should take a break from dating, maybe you should delete dating apps, but I was like super adamant on not doing that. I was like, I'm out here trying to find my man, I'm out here trying to find my person, and like the apps are just like a big way of being able to do that like nowadays. Like so I just like was not willing to give up on it because I was like, how else am I gonna meet people like organically in the wild? It's like so hard to do, especially in New York. So like I'm not gonna delete Hinge, I'm just gonna like do Hinge better, I guess. So how I use Hinge like prior to like my change, like prior to beginning of September, early August, was like pretty standard. Like I just like, swipe, match with guys, like we'd have a little bit of conversation on the app. If that was going well, I'd give them my number if they asked. Then we'd start talking like over text message, and then like, they usually ask me out, we'd go out. And if I see them like at least like 3 times, by the third time, usually that's when I'd bring up, if I like them, I'd bring up like, hey, I like you, I want to get to know you, what do you think, like what are we doing here, obviously just to see like what direction we were going in. And in my experience it would usually go in one of two ways. Either like they would like say like they just wanted something casual, for whatever reason, and initially I would still go out with a guy that would say that. More recently I would not go out with a guy that says that, or they will say something along the lines of like, yeah, like I like you, I want to get to know you, but like let's do it in like a go with the flow kind of way. And I used to be like okay with that. I was like, okay, like that's not casual, that's not like just like fucking around. Like to me I saw that still as a distinction, and I would be like, okay, that's like good enough for me to continue going out with a guy. So I wouldn't like X that like I would X the first situation, which I only started doing more recently. I used to not even X that. So now I realize like both those situations should be X. Like I was like, if a guy is not looking for something serious, if he's not looking for a relationship, like anything less than that is no to me. Like I should interpret it as that, because like especially this year, like I've had at least like 2 guys say to me like, oh, like this is not casual, like I really want to get to know you, but can we do it in like a go with the flow kind of way, or like I just want to see where things go kind of way. And I ended up getting fucked over. So I was like, no, like I need a super clear, straightforward, like I want to get to know you, I want to see if we can do something serious. Like I need that straightforward answer before I can actually like consider you as like an actual prospect in my life. So like with this mindset, what I did on the apps was basically I like obviously I'd be like chatting with guys, and then like they'd ask for my number, and before giving my number I'd be like, hey, like so I need to know like what are you looking for right now. And based on that, like then I would decide whether or not I would give my number, or like at least just like my mindset around like how our relationship was gonna look like. So usually I would get one of 2 answers. One, which I like literally got only one time, very straight up, was, oh, like I'm looking for like a long-term relationship, I'm looking for something serious. And obviously if a guy said that, like no issue, I would just give my number. And the second thing, which is what I got way more often, was the, I just like want to see where things go and like go with the flow, and like if something turns into something serious and special, like great, but if not, like at least I got to like meet a new person and like have a fun experience. And if a guy said that, so at first I just would like straight up not give my number. I'd just be like, hey, like I'm actually looking for something serious, so don't think it's a good idea if we talk anymore. But obviously, like most guys are not saying the first one. So like after around like a week of trying this, I just started like being like, hey, look, I'm not looking to be confused right now. So if you're not looking for something serious, that's totally chill. But then like we need to be like strictly casual and physical. Like I don't want to be like going on dates. I don't want to be like talking cutesy and stuff. Like I need that like very clear distinction. So like that's what I was doing end of August, early September, when I was like on Hinge giving my number to guys. So I ended up like specifically like giving my number to 3 guys during this time. 2 of them irrelevant, never ended up meeting. But one of them, okay, so now I'm really getting into it. So what happened with him was like, he was like the first guy that like I brought up the whole what are you looking for question to on Hinge, like before moving to numbers. And he is one of the ones that said like, I just want to like go with the flow and see where things go, blah blah blah. So I ended up saying to him like, hey, I'm looking for something serious, I'm looking for something long term, don't think it's a good idea if we keep talking. So we stopped talking for like around a week, I said. And then like after a week, I still thought he was cute, so I re-messaged him and I was like, hey, actually, like, you know, if you're down for something like physical and casual, like actually like I'm cool with that, like just like let me know. And he ends up responding immediately. He was just like, hey, like what made you change your mind? But then he also said he changed his mind. He was like, actually, like I'm also looking for something long term and serious. And he was just kind of like explaining his like mindset behind it. He was like, but like I don't want to put like too much pressure on it. Like in his words, he said, ideally the situation has legs. I don't know 100% what he meant by that, but like I kind of understood what he was getting at. Like basically he wanted, or what he said he wanted was to like work towards something serious, like see if we could do that while also like not having that as like a high expectation to like prevent disappointment, like something like that. So obviously I was like skeptical. I was like, okay, like then why did you say the whole go with the flow thing at first? And he was like, honestly, I was like a little scared when you said that, because that's honestly like exactly what I want right now. It's exactly what I'm looking for, but I just like have some dating trauma, and was like, if you give me your number, like I can explain everything. So I ended up giving him my number, and we ended up like texting for like 2-3 hours that night, where we're both basically like spilling our dating trauma to each other. Like he's telling me like he just moved from San Francisco to New York like over the summer and just like got a new job, and like he had some like fucked girl situations like earlier this year, last year. He was basically like cheated on by his like situationship, but it was like an exclusive situationship. I think he said he was cheated on twice. I don't know if it was twice, but it was definitely at least once. And the one that like definitely happened was like just earlier this year and like super impacted him. And that's why he said he was like being really cautious, because his mental health turned really bad because of that, and he like wasn't looking to experience that again. And like that's why he was like not clear with his first answer with me, I guess. Like that was his explanation for everything. He was like, I just like didn't have good girl situations in San Francisco, I was cheated on, blah blah blah, I've been so hurt, and that's why I'm like, you know, like working on like being open again to that kind of thing, even though it's exactly what I want. I tell him like all of my dating trauma, and in the end like he ends up being like super sweet about it. He was like, okay, sounds like we're both like pretty broken people, but like I hope we can figure it out together, and I would still like love to take you out, love to talk more about it, and like love to get to know you. So I was getting like super excited about it. At this point I was actually still at my aunt's place in New Jersey, and he literally was like willing to Uber me like the $100 Uber from New Jersey to like see me like that night, because I was like, I'm not coming back till tomorrow, and like then I'm going to Boston. But he wanted to see me so badly. Like he was just like, this might sound crazy, but like I want to see you tonight, like I'll Uber you, blah blah blah. And I was like, this is insane. Like, but it just like felt so nice to be so strongly liked, you know. And what I did not realize is that this was the start of massive love bombing, which I will get to in part 2. I know this was super long-winded part 1, but I will get into it, and this story won't be too much longer. Okay, so continuing the story, as I said, he wanted to Uber me from New Jersey to see him, but I was like, no, this is crazy. I'm gonna be back so soon, then we could just meet up then. But I go to Boston, like, pretty much immediately when I get back to New York, so I'm not able to see him when I get back. But him and I are texting, like, 24/7 every single day when I'm in Boston. Like, when I say it was, like, constant texting, it's, like, because I was in Boston with my family, with our family friends, so I was pretty occupied, but I felt like my phone was buzzing every 2 seconds. Like, sometimes I just, like, wouldn't be replying because, like, obviously I was off doing activities, eating meals and stuff with the people around me, but he would still, like, text me even if I wasn't saying anything to him. Which at the time, like, obviously felt, like, really good. Like, it felt like, oh my gosh, like, this guy is, like, super interested in talking to me and getting to know me, and he actually, like, likes me. And he was saying so much love bomby shit during this time. Like, obviously, like, I was getting overwhelmed, and I kind of expressed that to him. Like, I was like, yo, even in texting, like, you're kind of being a lot right now. Like, it feels good, but it feels like a lot. Because he would say stuff like, this feels so different, this feels so special, like, I have such a good feeling about this, like, I think, like, there can actually be something here. He would be talking about the future all the time already, like, all these future dates we would go on, like, oh, like, we're gonna go eat Filipino food together, we're gonna go shopping together, and I'm gonna buy you a Aritzia because, like, it's your favorite clothing brand. We're gonna go on vacation together and, like, be on a balcony by the beach. We're gonna, like, take these pictures together and they're gonna look so good. Like, it was just, like, insane. Like, he was just, like, painting this, like, full picture of our time together, our relationship, and we hadn't even met yet. And, like, he kept repeating, like, that, like, he didn't want to, like, fuck things up because, like, this felt so different. This felt like it could really be something. And, like, he was acting like he was the scared one. He was just like, if you see me for a bit and, like, you don't want anything to do with me, like, just communicate. Just, like, be honest with me. Okay, now this feels like the time I should add this in. So, obviously, the big topic, sex, comes up, right? Because, like, him and I had kind of talked about, like, hoeing around, especially this year, or just, like, in general in our lives. And it's just, like, been a topic for me that, like, I've been thinking a lot about, just, like, with guys and relationships in general. And I told him, like, my stance on it, that, like, I truly do not care when I do it with a guy. Like, it does not change how I feel about him, how I view our relationship, but I know that it can for guys, and I don't love that. Like, in my ideal world, like, nobody cares about it, and, like, my ideal guy doesn't care about it, but it's not, like, this harsh deal breaker for me. So I just, like, kind of was super upfront with him, that I was like, how much do you care about that kind of thing? Like, let's just, like, be honest about it, because we were already talking about everything. He, at the start, basically was like, oh, like, I have to wait until, like, third or fourth date, like, depending on chemistry. It's just, like, a non-negotiable for me. And I was like, great, like, then we wait, like, not a big deal for me. Somehow, though, like, in our conversations, like, I don't really know how to describe it, or I can't even really explain how it started, but the conversation at points would turn, like, dirty, talky, sexual, definitely from his end. Like, I was not sparking any of that shit. But obviously, like, as I said, since I'm cool with it, like, I was not shutting it down, like, I would entertain it. And since we were, like, talking like that, like, a good amount of the time, we just kind of, like, started talking about, like, okay, like, does, like, the 34 date rule still stand for you, blah, blah, blah. And then, obviously, like, there was, like, no commitment here, because, like, who knows, like, we were like, okay, what if we hate each other after the first date? But it kind of became, like, apparent that, like, okay, like, if the first date goes well, we will probably, like, sleep with each other immediately. Like, this is such a weird thing to explain. Like, I can't even really explain it, but, like, we were just, like, talking about sex in general, and we both, in the end, were just kind of like, oh, like, we've been insecure about it because of other people, but, like, we both really don't care, so, like, it should be fine. I don't know, like, it was just all a lot so fast. It was like, I felt like I was divulging my entire life, all my mindsets and my thoughts on dating to this guy, and he just seemed to be on the same page for everything. Okay, as I said, huge love bombing when I was in Boston, like, literally telling me how much he liked me, how excited he was to see me, how good of a feeling he had about whatever was going on between us, that he could really see us, like, getting into something long term, like, saying all the date ideas we would do together and all the life we would experience together, and, like, that we were both broken, but we would, like, help each other out. I don't know, it was just a lot. he kept saying that, like, this was all scaring him. Like, it was scaring him how much he, like, enjoyed talking to me and how, like, much he was feeling about our situation already before even meeting. And obviously, like, I was feeling overwhelmed by what he was saying, but obviously it feels good to be, like, said these things too. So I was also feeling the same things. We were talking nonstop like this for, like, a week. So you can imagine, like, all the ideas that were, like, getting in my head, like, right before, like, I even met this guy. Like, I was, like, seeing and picturing this future I already had with him, even though I hadn't met. Like, it was actually insane. It's really insane to look back on now, but, like, that's just what I was feeling at the time, and that's kind of what he was doing, like, with his words through my phone. Okay, I gotta go to work for the rest of the day. Okay, so I come back from Boston, and literally, like, the day I came back from Boston, and I was arriving, like, almost at midnight, he already wanted to see me. He was like, you can come over, we can cuddle, blah, blah, blah. Like, he wanted to see me immediately. But I was like, no, like, I'll literally see you tomorrow. It's chill, it's fine. But again, like, all of this is flattering me. I'm like, oh my god, he, like, wants to see me so badly. Like, he wants to get this started. So, okay, anyway, so the next day, we meet for drinks for the first time, like, right by my apartment. We have our first date, and it was, like, good. Like, it was a really good first date. Like, I remember, like, seeing him walk up, and I was like, oh, he's so cute. Like, I'm so excited to, like, get to know him and finally talk to him for the first time. So we're at the bar for, like, around 2 hours, I want to say. Just, like, we grabbed 2 drinks each. We talked about, like, just everything that was going on, just a lot about ourselves. Just, like, really, really got to know each other, like, at the bar. Like, it didn't feel super awkward because we'd, like, talked so much, like, prior to this, and, like, it felt like I already kind of knew him to some degree, so it didn't feel like, oh, like, this was, like, completely starting from scratch. Like, it was just really good. Like, definitely one of my better first dates. I just really enjoyed myself already. And then after the 2 hours, he was like, oh, like, do you want to grab ice cream around the corner at the Venti? And I was like, yeah, totally. So we walk over to the Venti, and that's when he starts getting, like, a little bit touchy. Like, we were waiting in the line, and he kind of just, like, slips his hand, like, around my waist, is, like, pulling me against him, and I was like, ah, like, the butterflies were, like, going crazy. He pays for the ice cream too, and then we, like, walk around while eating it. It's just, like, super cute. Like, we're just, like, walking around eating ice cream like we're a couple. Like, I don't know, like, I see couples in the wild doing that, and I'm like, oh my god, I wish. And for that moment, I was like, oh my god, that's me. So after a while, like, we're walking, we're talking, and then he's just like, oh, like, I don't really want to finish mine. Like, do you want to finish yours? And I was like, like, not really. So we both just, like, kind of, like, throw it away unfinished. And then, like, we're at the street corner, like, right by my apartment, and he just, like, I don't really know how it happened, but he just kind of, like, turned me around and, like, kissed me for the first time, and I was like, oh my god. And then, like, we're making out for a couple seconds on the street corner, and then he pulls away and he's like, I've been wanting to do that all night. And I was like, me too. And then he was just like, where's your apartment? Like, is it close by? And I was like, yeah, it's, like, literally right there. And he was like, can we go up? And I was like, yeah, we can. So then he comes up, we're, like, making out more in the elevator. Like, we go to my room, and obviously, like, you know, the whole thing happens. So then we're, like, lying in my bed afterwards, we're cuddling. And then I'm so used to this. I basically, like, reiterate to him again. I was like, look, like, you kind of got, like, what most guys want. Like, and you know what? Like, if that's all you want, like, I'm still gonna give you an out right now. Like, if sex was your ultimate goal here, that's completely cool. I'm not gonna, like, get mad at you or anything. Like, I would just like you to be, like, upfront with me right now if, like, this is all you really wanted from me. And, like, you know, we could still either never see each other again, or we could, like, proceed with a casual relationship where we just do this and just keep the physical component of our relationship. He, like, again, like, is like, no, like, I really want to see this out with you. I really want to see if we can do something long-term and serious. Like, I don't do situationships. I don't do casual relationships. I think it's, like, really unhealthy, especially for me. And, like, I told you, like, if we were going to do this, like, we were going to do this, and I still mean it. And he was like, I'm gonna be honest with you, like, if we were at the bar and, like, I didn't like talking to you, I didn't think we got along, like, I wouldn't have come up and slept with you. Like, I only was gonna do this, like, if I genuinely, like, saw something with you and if I actually liked you as a person. I'm still kind of, like, very wary, and I'm, like, still questioning him a little bit. Obviously, like, my anxiety about this kind of thing shoots through the roof, and I literally was like, are you sure? Like, you could just be totally honest with me. And he literally was like, please, like, chill out. Like, I promise you, like, I want to see you again. Like, it's not all about sex to me, even though that was really fun. Like, again, like, I like you as a person, and I really want to see if we can, like, make things actually work. So obviously I was like, okay, like, I believe you. Like, what else am I gonna do? Like, question him more? Like, I was already questioning him a ton. And then he was just like, do you want to go out again this Saturday? Like, we can go mini golfing, do an activity. And I was like, okay, like, sure, like, that sounds good. So we were just, like, cuddling and talking, like, till super late. And eventually he was like, you know, I would sleep over, but, like, I wasn't prepared to do this. I wasn't sure if this was gonna work out. But, like, during the week, if you're free, like, could I hit you up before our date on Saturday? And I was like, yeah, like, of course. And he was like, yeah, like, maybe we can, like, do this again, like, before our date. And I was like, okay. Another detail I forgot to add, so when I started seeing him, like, I was seeing, like, 1 or 2 other guys, like, from Hinge, also, like, completely casual, completely physical. And I just wanted to, like, let him know super upfront, because, like, it's been a problem with other guys where, like, they'll, like, find out later on, or I'll tell them later on, and they feel, like, a certain type of way about it. So I, like, just kind of wanted to avoid that this time. So I tell him, obviously we're not, like, exclusive, we're not in a relationship, like, I wasn't gonna let him, like, control me, but I just wanted to have, like, an open conversation about it, like, see how he felt about it. So his take on it was obviously, like, he was like, I'm not gonna stop you from seeing other guys, like, I think that's wrong, especially because we're not, like, serious or exclusive or in a relationship yet. But he, like, made very clear with me, he was like, but, like, I obviously don't love that you're doing it, and, like, you know, if you ever feel like that urge, like that physical urge, since it's, like, completely physical with them, as you say, like, I would prefer that you come to me instead of them. So essentially what he was telling me was like, oh, I'm not gonna stop you, it's okay, you can do whatever you want, but since your relationship with them is completely physical, like, if you are feeling that urge, come to me instead to satisfy it instead of them. And I don't know, like, all of that, like, everything he'd said on our first date, everything he'd said prior to our first date, and just, like, the fact that he was, like, a little bit possessive of me, like, I don't know, it, like, made me so, like, giddy and excited, and, like, it made me feel just, like, good about the situation. Like, I had so much hope in it from the start. I gotta go back to work, so I'm gonna finish this later and get into the whole week. Okay, so as I said, first date happens, went well, and then he asked me already, like, on the first date, like, oh, would you be down to, like, go out again on the weekend? And I was like, yes. And then we texted about it. He was like, how does, like, mini golf on Saturday sound? And I was like, great, amazing, super excited. So obviously, like, we're still continuously texting, like, 24/7. The next day, like, we're texting while we're both at work. I'm like, ooh, this is so fun. So I had my own plans the next day. Obviously, I did not think I was seeing this man 2 days in a row. I literally had dinner with my family. I get back from dinner with my family around, like, 9 p.m. And again, we were texting, like, throughout this entire time. And then he kind of was just like, oh, like, do you, like, think you need a cuddle tonight? Like, I can offer my services. And I was like, yeah, sure, if you're free. And he's like, okay, like, I'm on my way. So he Ubers up to me, and he's like, hey. And obviously, like, we hook up, but we also just, like, lie in bed, cuddle, and talk. And he's like, oh, if it's okay, like, can I sleep over? Like, totally up to you, though. And I was like, yeah, like, I'd love for you to sleep over. So, like, we're in bed, like, it's around midnight, like, we're about to go to bed, and then, like, he keeps looking at his phone, and then suddenly he's just like, I think I actually need to do work right now. And I was just like, dude, like, what the heck? Like, it's literally midnight. And he was like, well, it's still 9 p.m. in California, so I'm not off the clock yet. Like, I have to go home and, like, do these models, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm so sorry. And the funny thing is, so he'd actually brought his laptop because he thought he had to work. And I was, like, cool with that. But then he was just like, I think I need my monitor. Like, I need a bigger screen to be able to see what I'm doing. So I need to go home. I'm sorry. This is so weird. And I was like, what am I gonna say to him? I was just like, okay, like, I guess see you on the weekend. So before he left, like, I did ask him, I was just like, do you actually, like what you do? Like, it takes up so much of your time. It's literally killing you. Like, do you at least, like, enjoy what you're doing? Like, do you like the choice that you've made to do with your life? And he essentially had this, like, mental breakdown in my bed over it. He was like, I'm soul searching right now. Like, I did banking for 2 years. Like, I did the internship, and then I went straight to IB, did the 2 years in this, like, really prestigious group. And I just, like, put my head down and did it. And, like, I was working 100-hour weeks. Like, I wasn't sleeping. I was just, like, not moving, not exercising because I didn't have time for everything. And then all I could do was, like, drink on the weekend when I had time to cope. I gained so much weight. I was so stressed, blah, blah, blah. He was saying how it was just, like, so bad for his, like, physical and mental health for, like, 2 years, but he just kind of, like, stuck it out because he couldn't, like, leave, I guess, in those 2 years. I don't really know how it works. And obviously, like, he recruited for private equity, and he was saying, like, they promised that it was gonna be better. They said, like, by the very least that I was gonna get, like, off at, like, this time on Fridays and, like, have my weekends, but, like, I don't know if that's the case. Like, obviously right now, like, this is where I am. And he was saying that, like, even if he, like, doesn't have work, like, he always has to be at the office. Like, he showed up at 9:34 one day instead of 9:30, and they got mad at him. And then, like, he basically has to work starting on New York time, so, like, 9 a.m. here, but he has to keep working until, like, California stops, which is, like, midnight in California, I guess. And then he went, like, through all the reasons, like, why it might be worth it, but then he was, like, debating whether, like, the long-term benefit is worth, like, the right now suffering. And, like, basically he said he was, like, super soul-searching right now, and he was, like, having this, like, crisis about it. And I was just, like, I just, like, kind of sat there and listened to him. Like, that was all I could really do. A combination of, like, obviously, like, our relationship is still very new, so I don't want to, like, speak too much on it. And also just in general, when I don't know a lot about a subject, like, and I don't know a lot about the finance world, and also just, like, corporate America in general, I just started working, like, 2 years after him. So, like, I don't want to give too much of my, like, input, because I feel like I don't have much to say from an educated perspective. And also I just know this kind of topic is really touchy in general. So, like, I don't want to, like, very, very early on with someone I don't really know, in a space I don't really know, like, say too much, if that makes sense. I just, like, was there to support and listen to him, so that's what I did. And then, so again, he leaves. Next day happens, we're texting, again, 24/7. The night comes, like, I had my own dinner plans, he was working, and then he says the same thing. He was just like, can I, like, come over? Can we cuddle? And, like, this time, like, I promise you I'll sleep over. Like, I'll only come over, like, when I'm 100% finished with work. And I was like, okay, sure. He finally finishes work, maybe around, like, 11 p.m. And then he, like, actually, like, backtracks. He's just like, actually, like, I don't want to fuck this up with you. Like, we have our date on Saturday, and, like, maybe we should, like, wait to see each other then, and, like, then we'll do our sleepover, then we'll do everything. Like, I don't want to, like, rush this by, like, meeting up so much and, like, hooking up so much in the start. Like, I actually, like, see this as special. I see this as something that can be long term, and I can't mess it up with my dick. Like, we have to control ourselves. And I was also feeding into it, to be fair. I was just like, no, like, come see me, like, it's fine. But then I was just like, after a while, because we were going back and forth for a while, that eventually I was like, you know what, maybe you're right. Like, maybe we should be smart and we should wait. Like, it'll be better if we wait. And when I said that, immediately he was like, actually, like, no, like, I can't take it, like, can I come? And I was just like, yeah, you can come, of course. So he comes over, we hook up again, and then we're cuddling, we're talking, obviously, and this time, like, he actually sleeps over, and we had just, like, a really nice night, like, cuddling, talking, being, like, all intimate and stuff with each other. And then next day is Friday, so the day before, like, our second official date on the Saturday. And I was like, are we still on for tomorrow? And he was like, yes. And then he had told me, like, when, like, he was over, he was just like, I got assigned to, like, these 2 things, like, I got staffed, so I have a ton of work suddenly, but, like, I'll try to crank it out. Like, I really, really want to make it to our date on Saturday. I really don't want to bail on you, but, like, I'm just warning you, like, I might have to do that. And I was like, okay, like, thank you for being upfront about it, like, just let me know, right? So this was Friday. We're texting a little bit less because he had made it upfront with me, like, oh, I have a lot of work, I really need to finish it. Okay, tiny but important detail. So he graduated from Penn in 2022, and one of my roommates, my girl roommate, she's my year, also graduated from Penn in 2024. So obviously when I started seeing this guy, like, the first thing I did was ask him. I was just like, oh, by the way, like, one of my roommates went to Penn, like, maybe you know her. Said her name, he was like, never heard of her before. So I was like, okay, didn't even bother to ask my roommate until I was like, oh, maybe, like, she might know him. So I brought it up with her. I was like, oh, like, you know, the guy I'm seeing, like, funny story, like, he actually went to your college. She was like, why did you not share this before? Show me his Instagram. Showed her the Instagram, and turns out she did know him. She was like, oh my gosh, like, him and I met at a party, like, he probably just doesn't remember me, but, like, he apparently, like, dated a girl. So she was in a business frat, my roommate. He dated a girl in her business frat, and the tea there is that, like, that girl apparently was, like, seeing another guy in that business frat, and the guy that was currently seeing stole her away, and then they started dating. So that was, like, the whole tea, the lore. And my roommate basically was like, oh, like, he was, like, kind of mean, kind of rude to me, but, like, he probably was just, like, drunk. I don't know that much about him. And the additional detail that I did learn was, like, so my roommate also has this best friend from Penn that was also in her frat, this guy, who also lives in New York currently, my year. And then I just, like, saw that, like, he also followed this guy. So obviously I brought it up with the guy. I was just like, oh, like, you said you don't know my roommate, but maybe you know her friend. I see that you follow him on Instagram. And he was like, oh my gosh, yeah, like I live with his brother. So it was crazy. We were like, small world, ha ha ha. Like, I thought it was very ha ha. Did not think it was a big deal at all. I was just kind of like, whoa, weird that we're like connected in multiple ways, even though we met from Hinge. But anyways, okay, so this all happens like pre-Friday. Now it's Friday. We're not texting as much as usual, but like I knew he had a lot of work, so I wasn't super bothered by it. And I was in this like weird crisis because like I technically was still like sleeping and seeing other guys, and like I discussed it with him very lightly. He was like, obviously like we're not exclusive yet, so not a big deal, but like just like don't tell me, and it's your decision whether you continue that. And I was talking with my roommates about it, and they all like convinced me to like mentally like not seek or like see any other guys in the present. They were like, you obviously really like this guy, you've seen him like every day this week, like you like, why see other guys? Like, what's the point? Like, why don't you just like see it out fully with him, and if it doesn't work out, go ahead and move on. So I was still kind of making up my mind about that, but in the end, like by Friday I was kind of like, okay, like, you know, I really want to see this out. Like, that's kind of emotionally where I was at this point. Saturday rolls around. He has not followed up about the date, whether it's on, whether it's not. I'm kind of anxious about it because I'm like, is it still happening? I just like had my own plans on that day, and the last thing I was gonna do that day was like grab dinner and drinks with my friend. And my plan was like, okay, like if the date is on, then I'll just like leave the dinner and drinks like at a normal time and we go mini golfing, and if not, like I could just hang out with my friend and drink to the night. So I was doing like paint and pour with another friend in the afternoon, like maybe 4 p.m. And then he texted me bailing. He was just like, hey, I feel really bad, but I have so much work. I can't meet you for mini golf. I'm gonna have to cancel on you. So I respond like in a super chill way. I basically was just like, thank you for letting me know. Hope you finished your work. Let me know if you want to reschedule something. He just like likes the message. I go on to plans with my next friend, dinner and drinks. So I'm telling her about this whole situation. Obviously, I'm expressing a lot of my worries about it. Like, not that anything like particularly bad had happened between us yet, but like obviously I have a lot of guy trauma from the past, and like him bailing at the last minute, even though like it's because of work or whatever, obviously like doesn't sit well with me, especially because I did ask him very early on. I was like, do you think you have the time for this? And he reassured me that like he did and that he really wanted it. So the fact that like within the first week he already like bailed on like a set date we had, like I don't know, like it just like wasn't good. And the fact that he like didn't even like really apologize for it, or he didn't really like try to like reschedule, like even like tentatively like, oh, I'm not sure of my availability, but like would you want to do something like X day of the week, like give me even like a range. I don't know, like all of that, it just felt like he was bailing with no plan, and it was so early on, like it just didn't feel great. So eventually, like, we're still drinking at the restaurant. She convinces me to text him, basically just kind of expressing that I was a little, like, upset that I didn't get to see him that night. He replies immediately. He was like, yeah, like, I feel really bad about bailing. Like, I really wanted to see you. That's it. Again, not much. I'm still kind of frustrated about the situation. Don't know how to feel about it. Eventually, like, I leave the restaurant around, like, 10 p.m. or so. I'm on the subway back. I'm pretty drunk. I end up sending another text. I'm just like, I just want to ask you again, like, do you genuinely think you have the time for this? Do you genuinely think you have the time for me? And that's when he sends this text, like, this long stream of text basically saying, like, actually, now that I've thought about it, like, I realized this weekend that, like, my work is, like, not conducive to me, like, meeting someone new and starting something serious, and it's such a shame because we had such a great connection, but, like, unfortunately, I think, like, I need to let you go. So I'm, like, on the subway back, drunk, alone, getting this text all of a sudden. So I remember just being, like, so dumbfounded. I start crying on the subway because, like, I just didn't know how to react. So then I just kind of, like, text back, like, are you ending things with me? Like, can we even talk about this? Like, what? He just, like, kind of reiterates the same thing, like, a couple times, and then eventually he's like, yeah, like, you know what, like, we can talk about it, like, if you want, like, do you want to, like, call about it, like, in a day or two when I'm done with my work? So I'm, like, still texting him, basically just, like, really emotional and confused. It just, like, felt super abrupt. Like, I'd literally seen him the day before. Like, he left my house after a sleepover, and the next day he was, like, telling me he needed to let me go because of work. Like, I was just, like, what the fuck, bro? Like, this is so sudden. I was, again, drunk, emotional, alone. I end up, like, stupidly, like, messaging this guy that, like, I like matched with on Hinge a while ago, and like I would hit up from time to time to like meet up, but obviously like I was like not taking dating that seriously when I started doing it again back in April, May. So I kind of would just like go on dates with whoever would like ask me first at the right time. Like nothing against him particularly, like that's just kind of what my mindset was at the time. So unfortunately I guess I kept bailing on him at the last minute, or like rescheduling plans with him without even knowing that I was doing this particularly to this guy. I will tell that story fully in another story time. But anyways, the TLDR is I actually ended up meeting another guy that night. Like I was so upset. I just like wanted to be with someone because I thought I was gonna be with someone. So I go home and I invite him to my place. And him and I just like talk. And we end up making out. There's a whole story there. I'm not gonna get into it here. Another story time. But through that experience, I basically realized like, oh, like I really like this other guy, because like I feel like with other guys I'd seen at earlier points in the year or just at other times in my life, like usually even if I say like I like one guy and I kind of meet another guy to like get over them, not that that's a good thing, it's not a healthy habit that I have. Usually I'm able to like fully like go all the way with them, like act like the other guy doesn't exist for the time I'm with the other guy. And honestly, usually I'll end up also liking the other guy from my past experiences. But this was like the first time that like I literally had like another guy in my bed that like was fully ready to like cuddle me, make out with me, do all the things a pretend couple does. And I just like could not even look at him. I was just so like in my head about this other guy that like I remember like he tried making out with me and like we were making out, but like I literally like physically was like, I can't do this. Like I turned away my head. I like was removing his hands. Like I'd never done that before. Obviously all of this is emotionally hitting me. I'm like, oh shit, like I really, really must like this other guy. And that's just why this is kind of hurting now. It just was like such an overwhelming 2 weeks where we were like in contact so much and had met so much, and to end so abruptly, it just felt so weird and I just like didn't know how to comprehend it. Okay, gonna make a final part or two after this. I thought there was only gonna be one more part, but funny story, he actually ended up recontacting me and we're talking again, and maybe it's stupid. It's still an ongoing story though. Okay, so like the next day, him and I end up FaceTiming. I had this like whole script prepared, but he like just jumped right into it, didn't even let me talk. He basically was like, I'm just gonna get straight to the point. Like I said on text, I just think my job right now, like I thought it would be better than my last job, but like it's actually just worse. It's like banking 2.0, and I just realized recently that it's just not conducive to me like meeting a new person and starting something serious. Like I thought I could do it, but this weekend I was just blown up and I had to cancel on you and I felt so bad. And he was like, I see it just like being like this for the entire year, and like I need to quit my job, but I definitely can't get out of it. Like I told you about my signing bonus, I'm locked in for a year, and I feel like the best I would be able to do is like maybe see you on the weekends, and I don't want to like spend all this time with you and like catch feelings for you and then barely be able to see that you, it's not fair to me and it's not fair to you, and you deserve so much better. He was also saying that like he also just found out that he had this family emergency and he had to fly back home for it, and like all of this like life stuff, like his personal life and his work life is all just like completely overwhelming him, and that would all just cause him to be like a bad partner, and like I deserve someone who could like really be there for me, someone who was better than him. And he just like thought it was so unfortunate because like he made all these promises and like we had this connection and he had to bail on me so fast. And he kept like reassuring me like it's nothing you did, like literally there's nothing you could have done to like make the situation like different, like this is just like a me thing, like, and you know, like if you're single in the future, like I would love to reach out, but like you can't wait for me, but like I definitely would be open to starting something again in the future if things get better, like I won't forget you. So he just kind of like talks at me for like a couple minutes, and I just didn't really know what to say, because he was basically just like telling me that it was over. I did say like, is there anything I can say or do right now to change your mind? And he would basically was like, no, not really, I don't think so. And then I just kind of proceeded to tell him just more like my feelings on the situation. Then I basically said like I just felt the connection was great too. It did happen really fast, and I was a little overwhelmed, but I had a lot of hope in it, and that's why I'm really hurt right now that you're ending it in what feels like an abrupt way. Like I felt like I literally saw you yesterday and then the next day you're telling me you need to let me go. Like, I felt like I got whiplash and that really sucks. And he just kept like apologizing for it, but like I was like, well, like that doesn't make me feel any better. He was just telling me like it was all in him problem, that he literally like cried for an hour in his room the day before. And I said something about like, I think I'm gonna cry right now, and he was like, oh, if you start crying, like I'm gonna start crying on this FaceTime. And I was just like, oh my god, like I just felt like so, like I didn't know what to say, but I was like super overwhelmed at the same time. And it was just like really sad. Like it just like felt like I was saying goodbye. Like that's kind of what was going on. So yeah, like we called for maybe like 30 minutes. Conversation ended. We texted a little bit, like last goodbyes afterwards. And then we didn't talk for over 2 months. He still followed me on Instagram and I still followed him. But like zero communication happened between us between September and like mid-November. So getting to the point of the video, this situation just caused me to delete Hinge completely because I basically felt like I did everything I possibly could have done to like make it work. Like I told him from the start, like I was looking for something long-term. I was looking for a relationship and I would only go out with him if he was serious about that. I was super upfront with like my thoughts and views on dating and where I was at with like my experiences with past guys. And I thought I found this guy that I really liked and I was willing to go all in, like stop seeing other people, stop like roster dating and like hooking up and like really see it out with him for whatever it was. And I still basically got burned. So given all of this, I basically was like, there's no way I can find my boyfriend, my man on Hinge. Like if I can be so upfront at the start and also just like go about it the right way, like do both those things, and it's still not work in my favor, like it's like, you know that phrase, it's kind of like insanity is like if you do the same thing multiple times and expect a different outcome. Like that's how I felt I was going about Hinge. Like I was like, yeah, I was changing kind of how I was going about it with each guy. Like, you know, at first I used to just go all in on one guy, and then I decided to like roster date a little bit, and then I decided to be upfront with my intentions and then stop roster date. Like I was changing like how I was dating from guy to guy, sure, but at the end of the day it all came down to I was just meeting these guys off an app. I was meeting these complete strangers online. So I was like, this is insane. Like I'm doing the same thing expecting a different result, but the same thing essentially keeps happening, even though like, yeah, it's a little bit different with how it ends. Like the general consensus is I'm not even getting to any sort of commitment stage. Like I'm not even getting a boyfriend to break up with. It's just like this dating situation that just ends for whatever reason, and I feel super hurt and super like lost on it because it's like I'm mourning someone I was never truly with and didn't truly know. So yeah, as I said, all this caused me to delete Hinge. I think I did it like 3 or 4 days like after that call. And since then I was really committed to like meeting guys in the wild, which I've been doing since then, and that's a whole other topic that I can get into in another video. But in terms of the current stage with him, so something has been happening recently and I do need to give the update on that. You know what, I'm gonna make a separate video about it because I'm tired right now and I want to eat, but it's also an ongoing situation. It is still evolving, and it's kind of insane. It drove me insane today. Basically, hint hint, 2 things happen. One is he reached back out to me 2 weeks ago and we've been talking since then. And 2 is on my last TikTok, 2 girls actually were like, oh my gosh, I know who this guy is, and they both DM'd me and they both definitely know who he is, and both of them were like, if you're talking to him again, you should stop. And I'm like, oh god, like I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, we'll explain that all in the final part, I promise. Okay, so now getting to like the current state of me and this guy. So we go into a contact after this FaceTime. All of September, all of October passes. Most of November passes, around half of it passes. And then in this random weekend, it's like 5 a.m. on Saturday, I get a text from him, well, a DM from him. He replies to my story. He was like, I think you're gorgeous. If you're single, let me take you out. And I was shook. So I didn't actually see it at 5 a.m. because obviously I was asleep. But I got up around 8 a.m. to use the bathroom, and I saw that he sent it like 3 hours before, so 5 a.m. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is definitely a drunk text. But I was super shocked because I hadn't heard from him in so long. And I really wanted to reply, but I was like, okay, like let me think about it more. Let me go back to sleep. And when I wake up, like I'll decide what I want to do. So I took a screenshot, obviously, for receipts before going to sleep because I just like could not believe my eyes. I wake up like literally only 2 hours later and he had unsent the DM. So obviously I'm like freaking out. Like it was already weird that he sent it and then now he unsent it. I was so confused. I talked to my roommates about it. They're all like, you shouldn't say anything to him. Like he obviously like didn't actually want to say something if he unsent it, but like you obviously want to, so like let's just like strategize together. So I end up sending him like a DM basically being like, the 5 a.m. send and unsend is crazy. And he replies like immediately, like lightning speed. He's just like, I'm so sorry, I was like super drunk, shouldn't have sent that, like the drunk and horny combo is terrible. And I just like kind of like pry a little bit. I was like, well, I hope you found someone to like satisfy your needs. And he was like, no, I've been like celibate for 2 months. I've been celibate since you. I've been like focusing on myself, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like being nice. I was like, well, I'm really happy for you. Like, hope things have been going well. And yeah, like I was just like nice about it. Eventually the conversation just turns kind of suggestive. Like, I don't know how else to phrase it, but that like it was obvious like he wanted to hook up again, but obviously like I think he knew it was a bad idea, and then eventually he kind of just like opened the door. He kind of like said the idea like more straight up, but then he kind of like took it back immediately. He was like, no, like maybe I should wait until I'm in a better mental place, like maybe I should wait until I'm like in a good spot, like I'm still not really okay, blah blah blah. And then I was also being dumb. I was like, well, I'm honestly, like, not taking this that seriously. Like, we haven't talked in a while. And then he was just like, well, yeah, so it's fine. And then he was like, so are you free this afternoon? Are you free tonight? Are you free tomorrow? Obviously, I already had plans on that day. So I was like, well, I'm not free in the afternoon. I already have plans. But, like, I'm free tonight or I'm free tomorrow. And he was like, great. Like, can't wait to, like, you know, see each other. Can't wait to see each other again. Like, do all the things that we used to do. Again, just being, like, very sexually suggestive in this conversation. So I was basically like, okay, we're just like gonna hook up again, like it's not that serious, right? But I was at least expecting to do that, right? So we're like texting all throughout that Sunday, like nonstop. Like sometimes I don't even like reply immediately and he'll just like double text. Like he was like on, and I was just like, obviously like I still kind of like him, so I was like really enjoying it, like talking to him again. And then the night comes, so I knew he was going out with his friends, so I'm just like kind of waiting, not like waiting, like I just didn't have plans that night. But then like 11 p.m. rolls around and he was like, sorry, I'm like so gassed, I'm so tired, like I don't think I can meet tonight. And I was like, that's all cool, like are we still good for tomorrow? And he was like, yeah, like I'll definitely let you know. The next day rolls around, he does not text me. I follow up, I'm like, so are we still meeting? And then he was just like, I'm so sorry, I got like swamped with work, huge meeting. And I was like, well, let me know. And he's like, yeah, I'll definitely let you know. Never even opens my message. And I was like, oh my God, like I felt so upset. I was like, how did I let this man into my life again, only for him to bail again? And like not even for a date, literally for a hookup. Like the stakes were so low and he still failed. I was like, oh my God, I was upset. So that happened like maybe now almost 3 weeks ago, but 2 weeks ago at the time when the next thing happened. So basically like around 2 weeks passed, like him and I don't talk. Again, he's still like viewing my stories. He still follows me on Instagram. So I went out last weekend. So last Saturday I got like super drunk and I just like really wanted to text people. So I texted him being like, hey, like, are you out tonight? He again replies immediately and he was just like, I'm not in New York. If I was there for sure, I would meet you. I'm actually in San Francisco. So I was like, you don't need to lie to me. And he was like, no, like I'm not lying to you, and like sends a screenshot of his location. And I was like, oh, okay, like I believe you. And then we kind of just like, again, we're talking. It's very suggestive, like as usual, as it was 2 weeks before. And he was just like, you know, when I come back, like, I'll, like, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. And then I brought up, like, him, like, not replying to me 2 weeks ago. And he was like, it's a long, complicated story. Like, I'll tell you, like, when we're, like, fucking, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, dude, like, you'll let me know. And then the conversation turns a lot more emotional, like, somehow. I don't know, like, what the transition was. But then at one point he just goes, like, can I be honest with you? And I was like, yeah, I guess you can. So at this point, it's, like, pretty late New York time. It's like maybe 4 a.m. So here he just spills like everything to me. He was like, so, you know, like the week we met, like I actually almost got back with my ex, and you also told me that you had a connection to me. So the connections I had to him, there were like 2. It was like, and they're connected. It's like my roommate, her best friend is like the brother of his roommate. That's one connection. The second is my roommate was in a frat in college, and his ex was in that frat, right? So that ex happened to move to New York, and they almost happened to get together literally the week that him and I were like talking and starting to get to know each other. So now I realized, like, so I actually had told him that, like, when we were seeing each other, I was like, oh my God, like, crazy thing, my roommate said she knows you through this. And like I thought it was just funny, haha, because I thought there was like no baggage there, or like it'd been a long time. But I remember he acted a little weird about it, and now I'm like, oh my god, that makes so much sense, because that was not like an old person, like it was, but they were actually trying to rekindle things. So when I brought up like kind of having a connection to this girl through my roommate, he must have been like triggered or something. And then he proceeds to tell me like exactly what the family emergency he mentioned before was. Like, I'm not even gonna share that on here out of respect for him, but he tells me like exactly what happened with that. And he said like both those things happening like right when he moved to New York, and coming out of like his life beforehand, like the ex situationship who cheated on him, and like he didn't really like the city he was in beforehand. Like it was all just like too much for him, and he needed to like focus on himself because his mental health was really bad. And then like what, like 2.5 months passed or whatever, and he was starting to feel better, and like that's when he texted me. And the night that we were supposed to meet, or like the day we were supposed to meet, apparently like his friend told him that he started like fucking his ex, like the one that he almost tried to get back with, like when him and I were seeing each other. And like that sent him into a spiral again, and he like went to the gym 14 days straight and was just like focusing on his like physical and mental well-being. Like he was just super locked in, like didn't want to like mess around with anything. And then like now he was like back home, like doing stuff for the family emergency, yada yada yada. And he was just like emotionally dumping a lot on me, and he kept like acknowledging it too. He was just like, I'm so sorry, I'm like trauma dumping on you, I'm emotionally dumping on you right now, like I have no idea why I'm doing this, like you can tell me to shut the fuck up, you can tell me to stop at any time. And I just like tell him, I was like, dude, like look, like I still care about you, and I'm just here to listen to you, like I'm never gonna tell you to shut up. And that's when he proceeds to like ask me out again. He was just like, how would you feel about like trying things out again, like properly dating, like no sex, not even like drinks, because like alcohol messes with the mental states. Like how about like we like actually like talk and like get coffee and go on walks and like, you know, like explore the city together and like, you know, actually get to know each other this time around and like see how things go. So obviously I was like, I'm down, dude, but I'm like really skeptical about you even promising this date, considering you bailed on me twice. Like you bailed on me back in September that day, and like I know you made me aware of that one, so that's not as bad. But then you just like kind of ghosted me 2 weeks ago after you reached out. And he's being all like, I know, like I don't deserve it, like, but like I pinky promise I won't bail on you, like really trying to convince me to meet up with him ASAP. He was talking about like maybe flying back from home earlier. He was just like, are you free Saturday, like I can fly back a day early so we can meet. And I was telling him like I had plans with my own friends and like my brother is here, and he was just like, tell them it's important, like meet me, blah 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 blah. And I stood my ground. I was like, no, like if you want to see me, like we can see each other next week. And he was like, okay, like I'll know better of my work schedule, like when Monday rolls around, like I'll let you know, like we have the whole month of December, like no rush. And then the last thing that happens is, as I said before in my old TikToks, 2 girls that knew him actually reached out to me and like were like, oh my gosh, like you should probably not proceed if you want to talk to him again. So like one girl knew him from college and was just like, he has a reputation of treating girls horribly, like he does stuff that is so bad to women, and I know so many people that have cut him off because of it. And another girl had like met him from Hinge in another city and was like, look, like he was nice to me, but he definitely like is a love bomber, he definitely like doesn't know what he wants, he's super into his work. And because I told her like, oh, this other girl mentioned him to me and said he was really bad, and he was like, honestly, if somebody else is saying bad things about him, like you should probably believe it, like it's probably right, and he's not good news, or like he's definitely not in a good place to be your boyfriend or a good guy to you right now. So yeah, that's the whole story, and I don't know what's going on right now. Him and I are still texting, but he has not texted me back in 2 days, so I don't know if we actually are texting, but technically I did message him 2 days ago, so we'll see what happens, and I'll update if there's anything else.
In order to detect some of the stuff this lady is talking about in this video I to stitch here, is to have your red flag detectors on. And your red flag detectors, if they were on, if hers was on, if mine was on, maybe in some of the times that I found myself in situationships, I would have known and been like, no, this is red flags. Somebody a man who's been inconsistent in responding to texts, or just ghosting you for a day or two. See how I said it? Beyond it, and they start texting you again, all of a sudden, acting like he has not ghosted you for 2 days when maybe you had plans, or sometimes all of a sudden canceling plans on you. You have to have enough self-worth to say, this is not my person. Because if you can't text me or reply or leave me on red for 2 days, and all of a sudden after 2 or 3 days, you're like, oh my God, what's up? Or what are you up to? Or abbreviated sentences. And if you don't see that red flag, all of a sudden you start engaging again, that means you are desperate too to be a pick me. You are desperate to be in somebody's presence. I'm just talking about dating phase. I'm not talking about marriage. I'm not talking about co-parent, that type of situation. This is how to start the beginning stages. Those inconsistencies with him. Sometimes those inconsistencies could mean that he has a roster. He has somebody or some people or some side pieces besides you that he's entertaining. He's trying to see which one is going to work out. So he's playing the field. You gotta recognize that. When they just start to criticize you, or you use work as an excuse, I'm gonna be, oh, he's such a hard worker. He's just working. Maybe I'm just being too petty. So you, no, girl, no. If a man truly wants you and have you topmost, he will call you 20, 30 times. He will call you consistently. He will text you back consistently. Men are driven by conquest, accomplishment, getting the dopamine hit by making sure their lady is happy. And when their true lady is happy, they get that hit, and that's the satisfaction they get. If you're not getting that vibe, it's time for you to set those boundaries and walk. Seek yourself, seek your dignity. So in this video that I sit here with this lady, let me know your thoughts. This is just a few of the red flags that I talk about. I stitch a few other red flags that I myself had experienced besides this one. Share, a like, give me a comment on your experience or what you've seen.